Welcome to the Comic Sauce Podcast, where we talk comics and comics culture. I am Henry Liu, and today I am joined by Porfirio Rangel. Porfirio, how's it going?
Going good, Henry. It's pretty warm down here in Southern California, and happy Superhero Day.
That's right. Today is April 28th, 2023, Superhero Day. Happy Superhero Day. I am also joined by Christian Diadamo. Christian, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Happy Superhero Day.
Yes,
Happy
indeed.
Superhero Day.
Yes, nice Batman voice. We are the Comic Sauce Podcast. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Comic Sauce Pod. And even though it's Superhero Day, we're going to talk about not superheroes, not even comic books, really, because the Super Mario Bros. Movie has hit theaters, and we must talk about this movie. This is going to be our main theme for today. And because Christian is such a big gamer, we thought it'd be a good idea for him to lead the discussion. Christian, take it away.
Hey, paisanos. All right, let's talk about some Mario. Um, so I love Mario. I grew up with Mario. I've been playing Mario since I was like, you know, 3, 4 years old, pretty much as long as I can remember, on my grandma's Super Nintendo, and have been playing kind of picked up, Mario here and there since. Loved Mario, the latest one, Mario Odyssey on the Switch. And so I've been a pretty big fan for many years, and I've been waiting for this movie quite a bit. I think when the trailer dropped, I I was I was pretty excited. I was very worried when I saw Illumination come up. I was not really that big on Minions or anything,
Mm.
or Sing. And so that was a little worrisome. And watching, when you hear a Mario movie, you think of the '90s movie with Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo. I watched it as a kid because it's all you had at the time, but it was terrible. Um, there's a lot of behind the scenes drama to that movie, and the movie was a huge flop. Really, really weird. And Mario and Blade Runner is not really something that should mix. Uh, which
True.
sounds very out there, but it's I'm not kidding. That's what the movie was. With Bowser being just Dennis Hopper, and so it is worth seeing. And so I've been waiting for this movie. Well, for since I first played Mario at 3. So that's
Wow.
my backstory as this big Mario mega fan. So what about you guys? What is your kind of experience, say, with like Mario, Nintendo, and like kind of all of that video game ilk?
You want to go,
So
Porfirio?
yeah, why don't you start, Porfirio?
Sure. So let's see. Mario's probably yeah, like Mario's been around for so long. I feel like any kid nowadays, like that's gonna be like one of the first video game characters that you're introduced to. And so, yeah, ever since a little kid, I've known of Mario. I've played Mario. I think the first Mario game I owned was on Game Boy Advance. It was one of the Super Mario games. I think it was like Super Mario 3, I think. Um and they, as an adult now, like they're still really fun games, especially like Mario Kart and Mario Party. Um they they make I can tell you from experience, they make really, really fun games at parties when you're like drinking and stuff. Like words are said that you may not mean them the next day. Apologies have to be said, but they're really fun. Um and yeah, like I think Mario and like the whole franchise is just a really fun thing for like any little kid to just get into because it's got adventure, it's got action, it's got um superpowers. So yeah, that's my little backstory with Mario.
Right on. So for me, yeah, I am a Gen X 80s kid. And yes, I did own the original NES. And yes, I played a lot of Super Mario Brothers on it. So um, I have a lot of fond memories playing Super Mario Brothers on the NES. And yeah, those were formative years. And I will always remember, you know, all those hours upon hours playing on that NES. Not just Super Mario Brothers, but Mike Tyson's Punch Out, The Legend of Zelda, etc., etc. But yeah, definitely logged a lot of hours playing Super Mario Brothers, and some of the best times of my life were playing Super Mario Brothers in the '80s. So that definitely needs to be said. I also wanted to call out a period in like the early 2000s when I was playing a lot of Mario Kart on the Wii, the Nintendo Wii. And yeah, it was like a daily thing at my workplace. Yeah, I had a period of time where I worked at the video game review company IGN, and it was a thing to play Mario Kart like every freaking day, and we had a blast. Oh my god! Again, some of the best times of my life. So I think that was the extent of it for the most part. Playing Mario games, touched upon playing Donkey Kong here and there, some other Mario games like Super Smash Brothers. I've definitely dabbled in some, but I think Super Mario Brothers on the NES in the '80s and Mario Kart on the Wii in the mid 2000s. Those were the most memorable Mario gaming experiences I've had.
Very classic right there. So like, and it's kind of funny that you guys like the first things you guys do mention is like Kart and Party, Super Smash Brothers. They kind of like the actual like spin-off games for Mario that have taken on like a life of their own and essentially become such a core part of like the Mario identity because they're such great games to play with other people and they're just so much fun. Like I've spent many hours playing Smash Kart Party in especially in college. For you're hanging out with like you're hanging out with a bunch of friends, you got a few drinks, and then as Porfirio said, you start hurling insults at each other.
Words are
So,
said that are not meant.
mhm.
Oh yeah, the shit talking
Yeah.
during Mario Kart is just like the best. And
Yeah.
there's some words that have come out of my mouth playing Mario Kart that I like. I still can't believe I said some of the stuff I said, but it just comes out,
Yeah.
Mhm. You see a different side of yourself
Yes.
during
Yes.
these games.
Hey, a side note, I'm curious, what were your guys's go-to characters for Mario Kart?
Um, I mean, if it had like a large selection, I'm usually like Boo or Shy Guy.
Hmm.
But if it had like just like the basic, like just the main characters, I guess like um Yoshi or Toad, I think.
Yeah, Toad was my
Mhm.
go-to.
Yeah, I did play a lot of Toad because he was like the lightest character,
Yeah,
so he was
he's
like the
fast.
easiest to maneuver and
Yeah.
really fast.
Yep.
So I did play a lot of Toad. Like when I was like a kid, I gotta play Mario in every Mario game. So I used to pick a lot of Mario, but then I realized I kind of like the lighter characters more. So I think I
Yeah.
gravitated more towards Toad, and like I think now in the new one, I play like one of Bowser's kids because they're like much smaller.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I guess going into the movie. So like since you guys have more or less like grew up with Mario, he's kind of just like part of like a pop culture zeitgeist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, so what were you guys thinking going into this movie? Like from the trailers, from the casting, from like everything kind of leading up to it. Maybe you guys didn't know since you guys didn't see the original from the 90s, but you guys probably already kind of know about it, you may have seen it. And of course, the reputation of video game movies. What what were you guys expecting going into Mario?
Yeah, for me, I think yeah, like when they first introduced the cast, because there was like Chris Pratt as Mario and Jack Black as Browser, um, and Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. I honestly felt like I think you said it already, Christian, like like video game films, like when they turn, or yeah, like video game adaptations are like either like a hit or a miss, and I kind of felt like this was just going to be like a big miss, to be honest. I thought like the studio Illumination wasn't going to treat this um with like any sense of respect to the franchise. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. But I felt like they were just gonna make a joke out of it and just like they made a film just for like money's sake, because like Mario's just like a big pop culture phenomenon. um so like I just remember, yeah, like kind of reading like, one, I'm not the biggest like Chris Pratt fan, so I just remember like saying, when hearing like headlines like, "Oh, he's not doing the Italian accent. Oh, he's like he's not doing this." I was like, "Oh, this movie's already sounds bad enough." And then the trailer, not gonna lie, the trailer did kind of pique my interest because there was a little bit of humor with like Jack Black's browser, like that one scene where he's like attacking the castle. Um, but I kind of, yeah, just didn't have any little to like no expectation for the film. And then I like watched it Wednesday night that it came out. And I only watched it because I was like, everybody's gonna be talking about this, and like it's such a big phenomenon. How can you not talk about it? So let me just go with the crowd and watch it, and I'll give my thoughts about it in a sec. But going in, I'll just say I had like little to no expectation or hope that it would be any good.
Yeah, I had a similar expectation level too. I had low expectations. Yeah, it's funny. The big celebrity cast kind of turned me off because I felt like, oh, they just hired these famous people so people would go see the movie. But the movie's actually probably pretty shitty because they had to get all these like super famous actors to do the voices, right? Um, so yeah, actually getting a big name celebrity cast, that was almost like a turn off for me. and what you were saying, Christian, the bad track record for video game adaptations, that didn't help. I figured this would just be another one of many failures in that genre. And yeah, I was kind of viewing this as best case scenario, it'd be like a Sonic the Hedgehog kind of movie. Something that my son would enjoy, but I would just have to like take him to and kind of waste 2 hours of my life kind of thing, right? So that's, yeah, that is literally how I approach this. And yeah, I was surprised in a lot of ways. We'll get into it, but yeah, going in, I had low expectations.
Yeah, like it's hard not to shake the like kind of quote unquote video game curse when it comes to the
Yeah.
movies,
Yep.
where well, no, when you see one, it's terrible, like in many, many different ways, and you have some that you watch that are probably the worst movie you've ever seen. And like the cast, the casting was such a big controversy when they dropped all the major cast members. Really, it was just over Chris Pratt. It was really just Chris Pratt being Mario, and
Yeah.
I think everyone else was like, "Ah, it's fine." Like,
Mhm.
but of course, I see what you're getting at, Henry, where you see these big name voice actors, and you think that's almost like they hired the names. It's almost like a mask for a shitty movie.
Yep.
That it's just there to put the names up there, to put the Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Pratt, Seth Rogen, big names on top of the posters. People would go see it. Well, and well, the you think if the movie was good, that would sell itself,
Yeah.
and
Right.
they wouldn't need to put these big actors, and that most of the
Yeah.
budget probably went to the these big actor salaries, while and cutting costs on the animation.
Yep.
And so, like, it's kind of hard to juggle that. I think just like all of that, and I think still have like hype for the movie. I think the trailer kind of gave me a big sigh of relief. Like, okay, this doesn't look shitty. This looks like this could work. This could
Mhm.
work. And like the animation looked pretty good. Like I actually like, wow, Jack Black is actually really good as Bowser. Um, and so and I think when a lot of people heard Chris Pratt, you know, Mushroom Kingdom, here we go. It sounded kind of stiff, and I think like a lot of people were like, "Oh no, oh no." But hey, we saw it. We had some time to sit on it, so I guess let's get to what we liked about the movie.
All right.
So who wants to start? What did you guys like about the Super Mario Brothers movie?
Well,
uh
oh,
Oh yeah.
first, I guess we should give the spoiler alert
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
since we're getting into the
yeah.
movie. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say spoiler alert.
Cool. But yeah, go ahead, Porfirio.
I think what I liked about the movie is just like, you know, like all of us have already played the games and everything. I feel like the movie really just like gave homage to like anyone who played any Mario game. Like the
Yeah.
music is in there, um the characters, the missions, there is like Rainbow Road, there's the mushrooms that you have to eat to get bigger and stronger, the super power-ups, like uh the different kinds of like um environments, you just know them from playing like the Mario games, and uh I just think like it just really paid homage to the video game, the Mario franchise. And like that in itself, I think was I think that was like it was just really fucking awesome because like I said like you like like this could have totally just been like a movie that does not respect like the franchise and just like put all these big name celebrities just to make a movie and sell it, but like the producers and creators of this film really went like above and beyond to just like add these small little Easter eggs and details for like the players to just like acknowledge and just be like, ah, I see what you did there, like even even like I cracked up when like the blue turtle that you see on Mario Kart was turned into a character, and then like he totally goes and like destroys everybody in Mario Kart, and like I just thought that was like hilarious and smart, and I just really love and appreciate those like Easter eggs that they went for um to just like kind of just kind of like give like a love letter to like the players, people who have been playing the games for like ever.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that, Porfirio. And yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. It's a love letter. It's a love letter to the entire legacy of Mario games. And that was a huge, pleasant surprise to me. Like, I went into this movie not only with low expectations, but with pretty much no idea what the movie was about. All I knew was that it was called the Super Mario Brothers movie. So I thought it was an adaptation of the Super Mario Brothers game. I did not know they were gonna have reference to all these different Mario games. Yeah. So like particularly Donkey Kong and Mario Kart. Those two stuck out to me. I thought it was super cool that there was a lot of Donkey Kong stuff in the movie because that's where the Mario character originated from, right?
Oh, you
And just
did? I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, you are Mario in that game. And yeah, huge shout out to Shigeru Miyamoto, who's like a video game genius. And yeah, he created Donkey Kong, he created Mario. And yeah, the source material is really respected here. So really cool that there's a lot of Donkey Kong stuff. And I was just talking about earlier how um, my Mario Kart playing years were very special to me. Oh my God. The Mario Kart stuff in this movie is so fucking good. And I think it's the best stuff in the entire movie. And it just kind of it transported me back to those years playing Mario Kart where you're picking your vehicle. And yeah, you mentioned the Rainbow Road, Porfirio. They
Mhm.
they they race on the Rainbow Road. It's so awesome. And it was just magical. Yeah, that the Mario Kart section was funny, it was exciting, and it brought back a lot of great nostalgia.
Yeah, like I think you guys touched on like some really good points with like how it's like a love letter, lots of nostalgia, lots of references for the past like I guess 40 years now, going all the way back to Donkey Kong, who even like throws barrels at Mario,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, when Mario and DK fight. And I think this captures what it really feels like to play a Mario game. I think it like one thing I really loved were like the platforming sections. There's like a really cool scene towards the beginning where it's like I think it's like No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and it's like a side-scrolling section with Mario and Luigi, how they where
Oh
they have to get.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
yeah.
that was a really great little scene, and it
Yeah,
felt like, oh, that's like that looks like something out of a Mario game.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you have like the little training course, of course, where Mario gets the mushroom power up and has to make it to the flag, like in the original Super Mario Brothers. And then of course, and it's funny, the like when I saw the Koopas ambush Mario and the Kongs, I thought, oh, this kind of looks like a PG Mad Max. The Koopas had this like big Mad Max kind of flavor to them as they were like approaching. And but that was a lot of fun. That was another great like little set piece where you see Mario throw a shell at another cart, and like you have the blue shell, like you mentioned, Porfirio,
Mhm.
and it really does. Like the movie has definitely has like an energy and a lot of references, like what feels like a reference like every second, every frame, every musical cue, there's a reference to something. Some Mario game, some Nintendo thing, going as far back as Donkey Kong all the way up to Mario Odyssey, like the with the like the little the desert area that you see for like a second with the upside down pyramid. Um, and so it was really fun to like pick out as I'm watching the movie. Uh, And so I guess here's a question for you guys. What did you guys think of the voice cast of the Mario movie? Was that a positive or was that a negative?
uh,
Any particular highlights as well?
I think the only one I feel like really got their money's worth of the the voice cast, like, because I feel like the voice cast wasn't a big deal. Like Chris Pratt, like, in the beginning I said I had like all this like negativity behind him, but at the end of the day, I really didn't care about him in it. Like it made no difference to if his voice was in it or not. Like I know I said like, oh, they didn't give him like the Italian accent, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. Um, I thought that was cool. And honestly, yeah, I feel like the voice cast was like did not like make or break the movie. Like it made no difference. I feel like if it was the big names or whatever, the only one I will say that again like got their money's worth is Jack Black as Browser. He totally
Yeah.
just like encompassed the character. He had that solo single of seeing Peaches, which was that deserves like a fucking Grammy in itself, like like he brought so much humor to the character, which I feel like nobody would have expected because Browser's like the least character you'd expect to find like any humor. Like I feel like if somebody were to voice Browser, that's like a real life action version of him, I feel like it'd be someone like The Brock or like Vin Diesel. So Jack Black was like the least person I expected, and he just totally like changed up the character, gave it a lot of personality, and like in knowing that it was Jack Black, like it's like, oh yes, this is Jack Black, you know. But everybody else was just like, I really didn't care. Like I was like, okay, Chris Pratt's this, Seth Rogen's this, uh, Anna is this. Like I really didn't care. Um, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement there also. I think for the most part, this movie could have been entirely voiced by like actual voice actors, not movie stars, and it would have been just as good, maybe better. Um, the exception being Jack Black, because Jack Black got to go full Jack Black in this movie. And yeah, there's that really bizarre and hilarious scene where he does a musical number. It's very Tenacious D. But yeah, Jack Black is great with his voice acting in this movie, and he gets to sing also. So he puts in overtime for this movie. He's great. Yeah, the rest of the voice cast, though, like I said, like it could have been, non-big names, and yeah, in a way, I think maybe it could have been better because, I mean, I love Seth Rogen, the comedy actor Seth Rogen, but his voice is so unmistakable. You could always hear his voice when he does animated movies, and he does a lot. And I heard his voice in this movie, and when I heard it, I thought, oh, that's Seth Rogen. I didn't think, oh, that's Donkey Kong, right? So it kind of took me out of the movie a bit, took me away from the character. So yeah, a bit of a distraction. And in the end, except for Jack Black, I didn't think they needed these big name actors. One side note, though, a big side note, it is awesome that they got the original Mario voice, Charles Martinet, in the movie as Mario's dad. That is awesome. But yeah, kind of along the lines of what you're saying, Porfirio, like the voice cast, it was kind of inconsequential in a lot of ways.
It's good that it's not like you guys can say, it was bad. It dragged out the movie. I definitely feel mostly the same way. It was like mostly fine. Jack Black was definitely a big standout as Bowser. He definitely steals the show. I think the one other voice actor I really liked that was in the movie was actually Charlie Day's Luigi. I think that was we'll probably get in the negative. Maybe I'll spoil a negative, but like Luigi really wasn't in this movie all that much. But I think Charlie Day kind of has that real manic kind of tone to his voice, that high pitched,
Yeah.
manic kind of voice, which I think is like it fits Luigi really well. Also, like he's kind of like I think of all. I'm a big It's Always Sunny fan, but like I think of all the other kind of main actors, he's kind of the least well known. He's definitely not movie star famous like Seth Rogen, Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy. But I thought they were all fine. I Chris Pratt definitely took a little bit of getting used to, but I think once I got into it, it didn't bother me at all. But yeah, the Peaches was definitely something I wasn't expecting, but was like one of the best moments of the film.
Yeah.
And I find it hilarious that right now it's actually on the Billboard Hot 100.
What number is it?
The song is charting. I gotta find the place. Peaches Billboard Hot 100. I think it is at number 83 right now, as of last Monday. So as of April 24th, Peaches is on number 83 on the Billboard Hot 100.
That's
Whether it
amazing.
climbs up further or drops, we will see. But it definitely was a nice return to very tenacious D.
Yes.
All right. Any other shout outs? Any other things you liked about this movie that you guys would like to talk about?
I think Henry, you kind of touched upon this, but I like that. Yeah, like Charles's voice, the original um voice actor for Mario, he was in it, and like I thought it was cool, like the lines he was given, like he just kept saying like, "Oh my boys," like I'm really proud of you, I just felt like it was like a little bit like again like this like paying homage to everything. Like it's him like cause he like voices both Mario and Luigi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's just like this like cool like one like 360 like turnaround like of Charles, like he basically grew up with these characters, and to just kind of hear him like be like the I guess like father figure to these characters, like now moving from like the small screen to like this like big full length feature um was really just a really cool like Easter egg. It's kind of like like when like you see like Stan Lee's cameos within the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
it definitely feels like in that vein, and it's something that they really should have had in there. It wouldn't have felt right if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we're still on the positives, I thought I'd talk about my movie going experience a little bit. Uh, I had a great experience going to see this movie. I saw it on opening weekend. It was the uh, Sunday afternoon matinee 2:30 show at the Grand Lake Theater in Oakland, and yeah, a lot of kids in the theater, a lot of parents in the theater, myself included, but like people of all ages. There were little kids, parents, Gen Z, millennials, a huge spectrum of age ranges. Yeah. And I'm telling you, every single person in that theater had a blast. Everyone was having a good time. The kids were rowdy, and the dads were fist pumping, including myself. And it was just such a fun time. And that's the kind of movie this is. It really spans a huge age range. We talked about the legacy of Mario games, and it goes back a long ways. So um, it makes sense. They still had to stick the landing, and this movie really does it. It appeals to a huge age range, and I think maybe that's the biggest magic trick of them all for this movie. That
Mhm.
somehow, you know, little kids, um, my 8-year-old son all the way to his old Gen X dad, we were both just having a ball watching this movie. And every age in between, I could see like a group of like teenage boys up front. They were having a great time. Um, it was just, yeah, people were loving it. So that really speaks volumes for me. It's hard to really have that mass appeal, and this movie has it. It really does. And just furthering on that a bit, I think it appeals to a huge range of fandom levels too. I think hardcore Mario fans can get so much out of this movie. Christian, you're talking about all the references, but casual fans too. If you played any of these Mario games one time, you would get it. You would understand, like, oh, that mushroom makes you big, or the turtle shell will knock out your opponent in Mario Kart. Like, just little things, and you'll get it, and it'll have a connection. Yeah. So it appeals to so many ages, so many fandom levels, and just the universal appeal of this movie really blew me away. It really amazed me.
Yeah. It like yeah, seeing this movie in a theater was just so a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, well, I guess a couple quick shout outs. I guess before we might hit the negatives. Um is I want to shout out I guess since we were talking about references, the Brian Tyler did the music. And I thought the soundtrack was actually amazing. I love the way uh he weaved together the scores of like different Mario games, as well as like kind of gave it that like big movie cinematic score. I
Mhm.
think like a lot of the energy is really tied into that soundtrack. Um, as well as like the animation surprised me. I thought the animation was wonderful here. There was a lot of really great shots. I thought the cinematography with the side-scrolling sections was great, and with a lot of the platforming sections, um, there was like a whole energy and a lot of movement in the movie, which is what you really want in a Mario movie. Games all about movement, games all about energy. And I think the set pieces were a lot of fun. They felt very Mario and they felt very imaginative. I think this is a movie that really could have fallen into just your generic character battles until the movie's over. Character battles in different sections, but it does really feel like playing Mario because of wonderful animation and wonderful music. I think those really elevated the movie. So let's see. Do you guys have anything else before we go on to the negatives?
Nah.
All right. Well, what what didn't you guys like about the movie? What are the negatives you guys have?
Okay, so I don't know if you consider this a negative, but like I think um I just felt like the story was kind of ridiculous, like I know it definitely paid homage to like the video games of like Princess Peach being in the other castle, you have to go save her, and this whole like thing about like Princess Peach, like whether or not she remembered being a human or living among humans, and then like stepping up to defend her her kingdom because Browser wants to marry her. I was like, oh, this is like really out there and really ridiculous and very over the top. But at the end of the day, I didn't care. Like it was just the everything else about the film was just so much fun that it was just like, let's just go with this and let's just like. This is not like a like movie where it's like gonna be like The Last of Us, where it's gonna be like has a strong like storyline. This is just meant to be fun and ridiculous, and let's just like watch it for what it is and enjoy it. So, so I don't know if that's a negative or not.
Well, in that vein, I was thinking for us, people who've played a lot of Mario games in our time, um, it's not a negative because it makes sense to see a little plumber guy eating mushrooms and turning big and smashing turtles and driving go-karts around. But to the average person, it is pretty ridiculous, right? So yeah, kind of like what you're saying, Porfirio. It's debatable if it's a negative, but I do wonder, like, if there are non-gamer people watching this movie, like, what's their reaction going to
Right?
be? Like,
I would, yeah.
it's just so out there. Like the stuff that happens in the movie is the stuff that happens in the game. So, for people like us, it's like, okay, that's how it is. I'm glad it's this way because that's how the games were.
Yeah.
But to the average person, I mean, I shouldn't even say the average person because I would say most people at this point, I mean, you know, Gen X and younger, to all those generations, most people have some kind of experience playing a Mario game or just being aware of this stuff. So it's not even like a minority of people, I think. But I'll just say to a lot of people, it might seem really ridiculous, and it might be like, what the hell's going on? What is this? Like I'm thinking like the big highlight of the movie was like right in the middle, all the Mario Kart stuff. Like I'm wondering to like a non-gamer person, like it could just be like, what is this? It's just like weird psychedelic thing. It's just like a chase scene in the middle of the movie that doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on. Why are they doing this? So I do wonder, like, okay, maybe if you don't get all the little references, if you don't have all this nostalgia for the games and stuff, um, I would have to think that the watching this movie could be a little tedious.
A parent who probably, yeah, like doesn't get the references would probably be like, is Mario eating mushrooms? Are those psychedelic? Like, is he seeing like this like Rainbow Road, and
Yeah.
like is he on drugs, Like I could just picture like a parent who doesn't get these references like thinking that.
Mhm. Yeah. And the movie is just full of a lot of weird stuff. And we talked
Yeah.
about the Bowser piano solo scene, Rainbow Road, Mario Kart stuff. The very beginning where they're cutting that commercial to sell their plumbing business and just yeah, the whole thing it is objectively strange, I think strange in a really good way, but I could see, it being a little bit too weird for some people, perhaps.
Yeah, I could see I could definitely see it being like too weird. I guess like I grew up with it, so a lot of it seems like very normal. But it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's just
Yeah.
giant pipes everywhere. Um, and you grow when you eat a mushroom. Like the oh yeah, they just and then like oh you get the invincibility star at the end. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
I'd be curious to show like this movie to like my dad,
You
even though
should.
my dad is like it's like well he's really good at Dr. Mario and he has
Um,
some familiarity, but I'd be
mhm.
curious to get his opinion on it. Um because like the world is so outlandish, and I think
Hmm.
on one hand, yeah, it's like it is really, really weird. And like, but I also think on the other hand that makes it very unique, The even today, there's really nothing in the video game world like Mario
Yeah.
among Nintendo, among other franchises. No, nothing really captures the world of Mario the same way that Mario does, with all of its weirdness and like uniqueness. But I do think kind of what the movie is kind of missing in that story department. I think like is that like there's not a lot of like really big character beats in the movie. Um, the movie just kind of like okay, this is this character. Like Donkey Kong, for example, is someone who kind of shows up about a third of the way into the movie, roughly. And then he has his little arc with Cranky Kong and how Cranky Kong doesn't um, see him as who he is, as who he really is, and
Mm.
he's having the father son trouble. And I think that kind of just like oh, it's like quickly shown up. They have a little bit at the end where Mario and Donkey Kong are in the fish, and then they kind of resolve the issue at the end. There's a lot of little things like you kind of see the setup, you see, and then you kind of see a payoff. But there's so many characters that they're introducing, and there's so many little like nods and like weirdness and set pieces kind of within that I did think while the movie does have a lot of energy and like a lot of fun, that never really lets up. At the same time, like I think like man, this probably could have been like 10 minutes longer. This movie probably could have been a little longer and probably could have had like something to kind of flesh out the characters. Something to really like make you root for them a little more. Like um particularly like I mentioned, like Luigi kind of just disappears, even though
Hmm.
he's in the title. He's one of the Super Mario brothers, but he disappears. You don't really get to see him interact with the other prisoners or Bowser too much.
Yeah.
Bowser's just kind of doing his own thing. Mario and Peach only interact for a little bit, but they're like maybe they're saving something romantic or platonic. You're not sure. I'm not getting into that, but that's like you see like oh that's kind of set up, that's kind of developed, and then it's dropped, and then it's Mario and Donkey Kong, and then that's kind of set up a little bit, and then it's dropped, and now it's kind of back to this. So what do you guys think of that? Like You guys think it's a little too fast paced? You guys think that's the that's the story department, like kind of one of the big flaws of it?
I feel like, I mean, now that you bring that up, I feel it's kind of like, like the closest thing I could think of to compare that is like Avengers Infinity War, where you're trying to introduce all these like new characters, like all these characters all at once, and then just give them like their own like spotlight. Um, and whether or not it's rushed, it's like debatable. Um, I personally don't think it was rushed, just because like all of us, we grew up playing these characters, like Toad and Peach, and so we were like familiar with them. So I feel like there didn't need to be like a whole lot of like airtime or screen time for these like interactions with these characters, which again, it's like kind of brings you up to like kind of relates like to what I was saying about like, oh, about the story, like there's like, is there character development or not? But at the same time, I'm like, I don't care, this it was really fun to watch. But so like, I do see where you're coming from, but I think like, that Illumination just wanted to like introduce like so many characters that like as fans you're just gonna be like, oh my gosh, like that's Donkey Kong, that's Diddy Kong, that's uh uh Peach and Luigi and so forth, like that you just don't really care if they have like dialogue or screen time. But that's just my take.
Mhm.
What do you think, Henry?
Well, I think we alluded to the runtime in the movie, but yeah, apparently the runtime of this movie is 92 minutes. And I love that because we're living in a day and age where it seems like every movie has to be like 2.5 hours plus. So I love the fact that this is a pretty short movie and it moves. This movie moves. There is no slow point. It just moves right along, and it's a lot of fun. I would not add to that runtime, to do more character development, whatever what we're talking about here. I would not do that. Um, I see what you guys are talking about, where okay, it's maybe a little thin on story and character development, but I don't know, it's just not that kind of movie, right? And I would say that the primary relationship in this movie is Mario and Luigi, and I think there is enough of that relationship developed. Those two characters. And Luigi overall doesn't do a whole lot, but there is a great payoff to the Luigi character at the very end. And he's really the heart and soul of this movie, the emotional center of the movie.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's enough of that to keep this movie together, I think. And yeah, I wouldn't waste, another few minutes trying to develop, other characters, whatnot, to the expense of like the pace and the excitement of the movie. Yeah. So I think there's like, just enough development happening.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess we were talking about this with Last of Us, but I think you mentioned that like something's great when you want more of it, when
Yeah.
it leaves you wanting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sounds like this do want more Mario. So let's see. Do you guys have any other negatives? Things that may have bothered you that you may want to shout out? All right.
Mm,
I don't
Oh,
think so.
I don't. Yeah, I
yeah.
don't think so.
Yeah. All right then. So then I have a question for you guys. I'm gonna throw out some numbers here. So let's talk about the success of this movie, because it's kind of no secret that this movie's a major runaway success. This movie is like surpassed Frozen, like, or I think Frozen 2. Um, and it's closing in on grossing $1 billion as of April 24th. Um, so last Monday, the Super Mario Brothers movie has grossed $871 million. And the train keeps going, so it will easily surpass $1 billion. So I think this might be a good jumping off point to ask what's next for Super Mario. And I'll start this off by asking, um, what, like, based on these numbers, a lot of people are looking at these, a lot of Hollywood analytics are looking at those numbers. Um, do you guys think that this movie is the start of a wave, basically, the start of kind of what could be the next big pop culture trend or next big Hollywood movie trend, video game adaptations? Like, do you guys think this is the next big thing?
Yeah, I 100% think so. Like you mentioned, the box office, it's a huge hit. And Hollywood is looking for ways to get people into movie theaters. And I can tell you right now, like Hollywood is going bananas over video games. They're looking for more. They want to adapt more. I guarantee you this. I think the whole superhero thing is starting to get stale a bit, and movie execs are looking for the next big thing, and this is it, man. I mean, there is so much material they can mine here, right? So good or bad, I guarantee you that these conversations are happening, and some big discussions are going down right now. Guarantee it.
Yeah, going off what Henry said, I think um like just this year alone we got two great video game adaptation works. We had The Last of Us on HBO Max, where everybody was like tuning in every week to watch that, and now we have the Super Mario movie, where it is like the number one movie of the year. And I think, yeah, folks are kind of, there's a little bit of the superhero fatigue is definitely like real, like Disney Plus, like the TV shows, they haven't really generated a lot of buzz. And even like the latest like Ant-Man film barely made, I think like 400 million, which is like half of what the Super Mario movie made. So I just think, like it's also just like video games, like there's a lot of source material there, and like if you just make it like fun, entertaining, like you don't have to like make it serious or like trying to make a storyline out of it. Like, like I think we talked about or Henry talked about Sonic, or I don't know if you guys have seen Detective Pikachu, like
Mhm.
don't try to make like a story out of something that doesn't need a story. Like just make it entertaining, and be respectful of the source material. um then I think like that's like a gold mine for Hollywood executives.
Yeah, like, yeah, the Mario and Last of Us really made this 1-2 punch for
Yeah.
video game adaptions. Like, um, and I think this is the start of something I think that could be really, really big. It's interesting that you guys also kind of bring up kind the kind of the superhero fatigue, the how Movies like Quantumania didn't do as well. Shazam, Fury of the Gods, did not also pretty flopped pretty bad.
Hmm.
None of us saw it as well, so
Yep. We didn't help.
because nobody cared.
Yeah.
Whether or not that fatigue continues, I guess we shall see. But I could see this becoming the big Hollywood trend. I think that video game adaptations have gotten a lot better in recent years, but they've stayed in the animated series space, and I animated in some anime. But this is the first time I think it's really crossed over and really entered in the mainstream and really proven that this could work. Uh, Video game movies were terrible before. They almost always bombed. Um, and so it's great to see these kind of come back. And well, I like Sonic. I don't have the numbers for Sonic right now, but Sonic 1 and 2 were both kind of released in the pandemic era. Sonic was released right before, and Sonic 2 is kind of released as theaters were starting to open back up again. And so this movie is just such a massive runaway success that, people are watching. And so they could find the next. So do you guys think what would you guys want to see in, say, like a Nintendo cinematic universe or Nintendo movies? Like, would you guys want to see something kind of like similar to what Marvel has, where movies are interconnected? Um, Maybe something not connected, but more Nintendo movies, or maybe something in between. A Smash Bros. Would you guys want to see like a Smash Bros. Movie?
Yes. um yeah, so definitely want to see a Smash Bros movie, a Brawl movie. I think it'd be really fun to see like a Nintendo Cinematic Universe, the NCU, you know. I think it'll be fun to see all these like other movies like Kirby and Legend of Zelda and uh what's that franchise, the one with Samus?
Metroid.
Metroid. I like totally went brain farted there. And like Star Fox, like I think it would be really fun to see these animated films like just come to life and then kind of like have like this like yeah like kind of I guess like little like subplot of like all of them kind of crossing over and like Super Smash Bros like Brawl having like a Hunger Games storyline where they all have to like defeat one another, you know. But yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, it's funny. Before seeing this movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, I would say don't adapt Nintendo video games at all. Don't ruin my childhood again, But after seeing this movie, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's bring on those Nintendo adaptations because it seems like they know how to do it right now. Finally, right? Um Personally, I would love to see a Legend of Zelda movie. I think of all the Nintendo games, that's probably the most beloved one for me. Um, I mean, so beloved that I would be like, you got to do this right. But like I'm saying, it seems like they know how to do it now. So yeah, if they can pull it off, would love to see that for sure. I would add too that it is interesting that there is a lot of talk about the NCU having all these connected movies and stuff. Um, I don't know if I'd want to see that, to have it all connected like the Marvel movies, because the video games historically haven't really been like that so much, except for Super Smash Brothers. So maybe the way I'd like to see it rolled out is, yes, have, more Nintendo movies, a Metroid movie, Legend of Zelda movie, etc. But have them be separate, not have the characters crossover, but then have it culminate in a Super Smash Brothers movie. So have one connected universe movie. That might be kind of awesome. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but I think there's a lot of potential here. Oh, and I wanted to add too that, with these video game IPs, I mean, in terms of adapting them, I think these movie studios are sitting on gold mines here because um with the superhero stuff, we talk a lot about the relatability of the characters. That's a big part of the Marvel secret sauce, right? Because you feel like, oh, I can be like Spider-Man because I'm like Spider-Man. I have a lot of his problems, all that stuff. Well, I think with video games, it almost takes it a step further because with gaming, you are literally in the character's shoes. You're controlling these characters. So when you're growing up, you know, over the years, you talk about relatability. Like, I am Mario. I literally am Mario when I'm playing these games, right? We talked about Mario Kart. Like, I am Toad driving that cart, trying to win. So that's built. That connection is built in, right? So once they start doing this stuff right, um, the fans will be craving it because there's already that huge connection. I myself am a much big comics fan than video game fan, but even I know that the connection with the characters can be a lot stronger with video games because you are literally controlling them. So yeah, this could be a huge, huge thing moving forward.
Yeah, like I definitely agree that like the movies probably shouldn't be connected in the same way Marvel movies were, or I mean Marvel movies are, um, and how Nintendo isn't really built that way. It's not, there really isn't, outside of Smash Brothers and I guess extra characters in Mario Kart or another party type game. There really isn't a lot of connecting them, and I think that could be a good way for these like passion projects to grow. There could be a team who loves Zelda, uh, or Metroid just as much as the team that wants Mario, and they might take it in a completely different direction. I think Metroid. I would love to see a Metroid movie, and Metroid I think would exist much better in a PG-13 space as a much darker, much darker concept than Super Mario. Um, And so I would also, I think an animated Zelda movie would look really good. Um, I think Studio Ghibli doing a Legend of Zelda movie I've seen thrown around on the internet
Ooh,
uh, is a really good idea.
yeah.
I don't think they do it, but I think that kind of style and flavor would, I think, do really really well with Zelda. And so you are right that they they do have a gold mine, and I think now the fact that they have a gold mine this entire time has kind of flipped a switch in Hollywood,
Yep.
because earlier, when we were growing up, you see these flops come out
Mhm.
over and over. And you look back 10, 15 years ago, and movies like Doom or the Yui Ball movies, and you think, oh, it's trash. All of them are trash. But I think you're right. You're definitely onto something, Henry, with, oh, well, I am that character. I am them
Yeah.
when I play the game, and there's that relatability. I think that works really well for Mario. He's a plumber. He's from Brooklyn. He really is like the everyman.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good way to kind of bring them into other characters like that. Um, Link, Samus, Fox, the list goes on, even outside of Nintendo games. I think there is just like a treasure trove, so many different ideas. I think between movies, shows, animated shows, anime, I think that this could be a wave in a
Certainly,
sense.
definitely.
Um, so all right. How would you guys like to get to the ratings now? Any other shout outs you'd like to call out before we get to ratings?
I did have some random thoughts. Um, so I think we alluded to the fact that initially fans were like, wait a minute, Chris Pratt is doing the Mario voice and he's not doing that kind of stereotype Italian accent, right? Um, and I think some people were like, oh, here goes, the woke police again, blah, 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 right? Um, just wanted to say that I think this movie handled that stuff really well because there was a nice balance, I thought, a balance of progressive aspects to the movie and the original material. Yeah. So um, the movie did address the stereotype Mario voice, right? In a really funny way. So, yes, the character of Mario does not have that stereotypical voice, but that stereotypical voice is in the movie. It's still in there, right? And it's kind of a wink wink thing. And I thought it was handled really in a really great way, and it's really funny. Similarly, the Princess Peach character, in the games historically, she is like a damsel in distress, right? Slightly problematic, right? And at the end of the movie, she essentially is a damsel in distress. So if you're like, I want to see the original material, well, you're getting that there. But she's also a heroic character as well. So there's a nice balance there. And I could tell that the way the movie was made, there was a lot of thought for these things. They wanted to make a progressive movie, but they wanted to um, pay homage to the source material too. So I thought it was a pretty cool balance there. One other thing, very random. One of the stranger um, uh, media release for this movie was apparently some people think the Luigi character is hot in this movie. And I don't understand this at all, but I don't know if you guys have any opinions on this. Is it just like a funny thing that they threw out there? But is the Luigi character hot in this movie?
I
Any
mean, look at
thoughts?
look at that mustache, man. And like, he could jump really high.
My sense is that, kind of like what I was saying before, he's kind of the emotional center of the movie, and there were some touching moments with his character. So, and at the end of the movie, he is a very appealing character, but is he hot? I don't know. I don't know if I'd categorize it in that way.
I did see that a lot online. Yeah. It's like I noticed something similar with like Loki after the original Avengers. That was like trending.
Yeah.
I guess it's a little different because it's like, it's Tom Hiddleston, a real Hollywood actor.
Yeah.
Also in green.
Oh,
Maybe
interesting.
people just love the color green.
Maybe it's that
Yeah,
green.
maybe it's green.
The green is popping.
Oh yeah. Time to make my entire wardrobe green now.
There you go.
Gotta grow out my mustache. All right. Well, I think with that, why don't we get to some ratings here? How would you guys rate the Super Mario Brothers movie? Who would like to go first?
I can go. So, yeah, man, I'm telling you, I will never forget the afternoon I watched this movie a lot of fun, and the vibe of the theater was like so great. Um, and the surprise of it all, I can't believe like how shocked I was. Like I went in literally like I'm gonna take my son to this movie. He's gonna have a great time, and I'm just gonna like enjoy the fact that he's having fun. But me, I'm probably just gonna be like, okay, let me just eat some popcorn and get through this. But like 15 minutes in, 20 minutes in, I'm like, wait a minute. This movie is pretty fucking awesome, and I was having a really good time. And like I was kind of like scanning the room, and everyone was having a great time. So that definitely has to be said. Um, I am a notorious rater. I mean, I rarely give 5 stars for a movie. So I am gonna have to go with a 4 here. It's a solid 4. Um, and yeah, maybe the only thing is the fact that you know, for the non-gamers out there, I just really wonder if you might not get anything out of this movie. Really, it'll just be like a loud, bright mess for you. So that's maybe my word of warning. I love the runtime. I love the fact that it's a short movie. It's See it in the theaters too. Yeah, I have a feeling maybe watching it at home it wouldn't be the same. See it in on the big screen with an audience. Um, so much fun. And the nostalgia of it. We talk so much about fandom on this podcast, and um this movie really hits those fandom notes. There's fan service in it, and a lot of it was so thoughtfully done. I talked about the balancing and the progressive aspects. That kind of thoughtfulness is there throughout the movie. The way they handled the game characters, and the different games they decided to insert into the movie to differing extents. And just yeah, you just felt it. You felt the thoughtfulness, and just a really good experience watching this one for sure.
All right. What did you think of the Super Mario Brothers movie, Porfirio?
I had a lot of fun. It was, yeah, like I guess like, yeah, since going into the movie with like no expectations and maybe just a little bit like, oh, they're gonna mess this up. Chris Pratt's in it, whatever. Like I had a lot of fun. I really love again like all the Easter eggs that they did, and it was just a really, really great love letter to like the fans and people who've been playing the franchise for many years. Like the little subtle hits of like the characters, how characters like um interacted and actions they performed, the music, the side quests, like the adventures, the missions. Like it was just super cute and awesome. Um, uh, easily one of my favorite movies of the year so far. So I would definitely go watch it again, and I think just because I love the franchise and or like the Mario games, I would give this a 5. I don't know how folks would take it who didn't grow up with Mario, if just seeing this just being a little too much or just ridiculous. But for me personally, I just thought this was really great and cute and adorable. So I give it a 5.
Nice. All right. Um, so yeah, this is definitely like I think a movie I've just always wanted. Growing up with Mario as his big fan. This is always kind of the treatment I've wanted Mario to get. Um, and watching this, it's like, wow, I'm a kid again. It definitely brought back those feelings of playing, and it brought back a lot of hype. it just like, really energized me. I think like as a movie, there are definitely some problems. They definitely go, they like I said, I do think I could have used maybe a little more. I could maybe the plot. There are definitely like you kind of see the plot beats coming a mile away. You have your formula to kind of rein you in a
Mhm.
little bit. In a way, but the more I think about it, the less of like I think of those as negatives because we talked about just how weird the movie is, and the simple structure with the character beats and the way the plot moves, probably helps rein everything in from all the kind of weirdness, the little references. People might not get what a blue shell is, or people might not like know who Donkey Kong is right away when they see him. And so I think that probably helps it more than it hinders it. And I think seeing this movie in the theater was a lot of fun. It is, a really energizing and fun 90 minutes. I can't wait to like see it on streaming later. And like as this big like Mario movie, as this big grand video game movie, it does really feel like a 5 out of 5. Um, I don't think it's like a perfect. It's not my favorite 5 out of 5 I've ever given. This is you know Citizen Kane, so to speak. I know that's always a thing, but maybe it's the Citizen Kane of video game movies. Now that I think about it, maybe this is Citizen Kane of video game movies.
There you go.
You heard it here first. I guess that shows you how low the bar is. Um, for this very specific subgenre. And yeah, like as this fan, it definitely hits all the right notes. Um, and so yeah, sure, I'll be with Porfirio here. I'll go with the 5.
Awesome. Hey, Christian, I'm so happy for you because it seems like you've been waiting your whole life for something like this, right?
Mhm.
Do you feel like this movie's kind of a dream come true?
Yeah, this really is like playing him as a kid, watching like I found the cartoons online. They came out. I was too young to watch them when they came out. And some came out like before I was even born. So I learned how to pirate these very early in my life, off of like LimeWire, Napster. That's what I used Napster for when I was like 7 years old, was to watch the show. I watched the movie, but nothing. But a lot of it was very old, very dated, not very well done. So to see something this like of a much higher caliber made by people who love the game seemingly as hey, they love this as much as I do. Seeing it was something quite special. I think like um there's always like definitely there's things from your childhood that you love to death, and it really is great to see it come together, like really come together on screen. I think superhero movies are definitely um like part of that. Read comic books as you grow when you grow up, and then hey, later on, oh wow, there's this really big superhero movie coming out. Um, and like being a big Justice League fan, I didn't, that feeling kind of got taken away from me the first time, so I'm glad I get it this time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was having similar thoughts in my mind because um it really is special when a movie or show succeeds in this way. Really tapping in to the fan base, it can be a really special thing. And if you're a geek, it almost doesn't matter what you're into. In a case like this where, your buddy is super into Super Mario Brothers, like Christian is, and it's like, oh, that's so awesome because I mean, for me and Porfirio, obviously, we're stoked. but you know it's like a little bit more special for them, and it just made me think of like when the Marvel Studio stuff was really kicking into high gear, and there was just this feeling, oh my god, like it really was all my wildest dreams come true. And it's so awesome when we get stuff like this, and it makes me think a little bit, not to go too too far down the rabbit hole, but like some of the stuff that Martin Scorsese said about how superhero movies aren't cinema. And I think it kind of misses the point on a lot of this stuff. Okay, maybe technically these comic book and video game adaptations aren't as solid as, you know, these great art films, um but they're doing something magical nonetheless, right? And to tap into our childhoods and some of the most special moments in our lives, a lot can be said about that, right? Like that really is something to celebrate, you know. And it's hard to make a good movie, and for video game adaptations to finally get to this point, it's definitely a hallelujah moment for sure.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
we
right.
started the comics recommendation segment last week. So you might think, well, are we going to skip it this week since we're talking video games? But wait, we're going to keep it going this week. Yeah, Christian?
I
You
think
got
we
something
are.
for us?
I do. They actually have Super Mario Brothers comics.
What?
I actually got a collection of them right here. These are the kind of a collection of Super Mario Brothers comics that were published in early issues of Nintendo Power. Nintendo Power, the monthly Nintendo magazine, would feature comics in them. A lot of Mario Brothers, but also like some Zelda, Metroid, Star Fox, what have you. Um, and so the thing is with these comics, like I've read a few of them. You know, they definitely lean more into the comedy, like kids comedy, funny adventure side. I found scans of them growing up as well. Um, and I would say I'd recommend it, but the collections are very rare. And of course, since they're gags meant for kids in the 90s, you know, it's a little more hit or miss, especially reading them growing up. But it is fun to experience Mario without you know, the challenges of the game, without having to, you know, die so many times on certain levels. You could just kind of read through it. And so yeah, it's nice little cute fun. Um One thing I actually do recommend that is a lot better, that I also loved as a kid, is the Legend of Zelda manga. I
Mm.
think Zelda is definitely much more story heavy than Mario, so that kind of fits a lot better. And I think the Zelda mangas were a really also big part of me uh, starting to read comics as a kid. I highly recommend all of those. Ocarina of Time, especially.
Awesome, awesome. So even video games have been adapted into comic books as well. Even Mario. Okay, with that, we can wrap up the episode. This is farewell from Henry, Porfirio, and Christian.